I, 32F, have been grappling with a family crisis that's turned my world upside down. My sister Zoe, 28F, has always been the black sheep of our family, a role she seemed to embrace from a young age. Growing up in our small Midwestern town, Zoe and I couldn't have been more different. From the time she started elementary school, Zoe was a handful. She'd come home with notes from teachers about disrupting class, refusing to do her work, or getting into fights with other kids. Our parents, hard-working middle-class folks, were at a loss. They tried everything: tutors, counselors, even a brief stint at a strict private school. Nothing seemed to work. I, on the other hand, was the quintessential good kid. I got straight A's, was involved in every extracurricular activity I could manage, and never gave our parents a moment's trouble. I remember feeling a mix of frustration and pity towards Zoe. I couldn't understand why she acted the way she did, but I also saw how much it hurt our parents. As we entered our teenage years, the gap between us only widened. I was class president, captain of the debate team, and on track for a scholarship to a good college. Zoe was skipping school, experimenting with drugs, and running with a rough crowd. Our home became a battleground of shouting matches and slammed doors. Despite all this, I always tried to be there for Zoe. I'd cover for her when she snuck out, help her with homework when she actually bothered to do it, and listen to her rant about how unfair our parents were. I thought if I could just be a good enough sister, maybe I could help her turn things around. After high school, our paths diverged even further. I went off to college on a full ride, studied accounting, and met my now husband Mark, 34M, in my sophomore year. Mark was everything I'd ever wanted in a partner: kind, responsible, and ambitious. We dated all through college and got married a year after graduation. Zoe, meanwhile, dropped out of high school in her junior year. She bounced between minimum wage jobs, never keeping one for more than a few months. She'd show up at family dinners with a new boyfriend every few weeks, each one seeming worse than the last. It was during this time that her drug use escalated from casual to concerning. Our parents tried everything to help her. They paid for her to get her GED, which she never finished. They got her into a trade school program, which she dropped out of after 2 weeks. They even bought her a car so she could get to work reliably, but she totaled it within a month driving under the influence. Through all of this, I continued to try and support Zoe. I'd lend her money when she was short on rent, give her rides when she needed them, and listen to her problems. I thought maybe if I showed her enough support, she'd eventually get her act together. Looking back, I realize I was probably enabling her behavior just as much as our parents were. About 2 years ago, our family dynamic shifted again when our grandmother Rose, 85F, moved in with our parents. Grandma Rose had always been the heart of our family. She was the one who could smooth over arguments at family gatherings, who always had a warm hug and a plate of cookies ready when you needed them. When our grandfather passed away, it only made sense for her to move in with our parents. Grandma Rose had always had a soft spot for Zoe. Even when Zoe was at her worst, Grandma would defend her, saying she just needed time to find her way. She'd slip Zoe extra money or little gifts, always with a wink and a "don't tell your parents." I used to think it was sweet, but now I wonder if that unconditional support did more harm than good. Last month, everything came to a head. I got a frantic call from my mom on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at work, buried in spreadsheets, when my phone lit up with her number. As soon as I answered, I could tell something was terribly wrong. Mom was in tears, her voice shaking as she explained what had happened. Apparently, Grandma Rose's wedding ring and some other valuable jewelry had gone missing. At first, we all assumed Grandma had simply misplaced them. She'd been getting a bit forgetful lately, often putting things down and forgetting where she left them. But then my parents noticed cash missing from their wallets too. Small amounts at first, easy to overlook, but it added up over time. They didn't want to jump to conclusions, but suspicion naturally fell on Zoe. She'd been coming around more often lately, always conveniently when our parents were at work. She claimed she was just visiting Grandma Rose, keeping her company. We all thought it was nice that she was finally showing some family responsibility. My parents set up a small camera in the living room, not telling Grandma Rose to avoid upsetting her. The next time Zoe came over, they caught her red-handed. The footage showed her rifling through drawers, pocketing cash, and even taking Grandma's jewelry box right out of her bedroom while Grandma was napping. When confronted, Zoe broke down crying. She admitted she pawned the jewelry to pay off drug debts. She swore she was going to buy it back as soon as she could, that she never meant to hurt anyone. But the damage was done. I was furious. This wasn't just stealing, this was taking advantage of our sweet grandmother who'd never been anything but kind to her. It was a betrayal of the worst kind. My parents were devastated but still wanted to help Zoe. They offered to pay for rehab if she'd go, saying this could be the wake-up call she needed. Here's where I might be the asshole. I told my parents they were enabling Zoe's behavior and that she needed to face real consequences for once. I said I was done with her and wouldn't be bailing her out anymore. Then I blocked her number and on all social media. I even told my parents I wouldn't be coming around if Zoe was there. My parents think I'm being too harsh. They say Zoe needs our support now more than ever, that addiction is a disease and we can't abandon her. They keep bringing up how we've always been there for each other, how family should stick together no matter what. But I just can't get past what she did to Grandma Rose. It feels like a line has been crossed that can't be uncrossed. Am I the asshole for cutting my sister off? Should I be more understanding of her addiction? Or am I right to finally put my foot down after years of Zoe taking advantage of our family's generosity? I'm torn between my love for my sister and my anger at what she's done. Part of me hopes this will be the push she needs to finally get her life together. But another part of me is just tired of the drama, tired of the disappointment, tired of always having to be the responsible one. For now, I'm standing firm in my decision. But I can't help wondering if I'm making the right choice. The thought of never speaking to my sister again breaks my heart, but I don't know how I can ever trust her after this. I feel like I'm mourning the loss of the sister I always hoped Zoe would become, the one I've been waiting for all these years. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments. Reading them has helped me feel less guilty about my decision to cut Zoe off, even as the situation has continued to evolve in ways I never expected. After much debate and against my advice, my parents ended up paying for Zoe to go to a 30-day rehab program. It was an expensive facility in a neighboring state, known for its high success rate and holistic approach to addiction treatment. I still thought this was enabling her, but I kept my opinions to myself. I made it clear, however, that I wouldn't be involved in her recovery process. This caused some tension with my parents, but I stood my ground. The day Zoe left for rehab was emotional. Our parents drove her to the facility, and I reluctantly agreed to be there to see her off. Zoe was a mess, alternating between tearful apologies and angry outbursts. She begged me to forgive her, promising she'd make things right. I didn't say much, just wished her luck and reminded her that actions speak louder than words. For the first week, we got positive reports from the rehab center. Zoe was participating in group therapy, attending all her sessions, and seemed committed to the program. Our parents were cautiously optimistic, and I found myself hoping that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. But about 2 weeks into Zoe's rehab stay, I got a call from my mom that shattered that fragile hope. Apparently, Zoe had run away from the facility in the middle of the night. She'd managed to steal another patient's phone and called her dealer to pick her up. The rehab center staff found drugs in her room during a routine check, so she was immediately expelled from the program. My parents were beside themselves. They'd already paid for the full 30 days and weren't getting a refund. Plus, they had no idea where Zoe was. I felt bad for them, but a part of me wasn't surprised at all. It was just another chapter in the long story of Zoe's self-destruction. For several days, we heard nothing from Zoe. My parents were frantic, calling hospitals and police stations, afraid she might have overdosed somewhere. I tried to stay detached, but I couldn't help worrying too. Despite everything, she was still my sister. Then, about a week after she'd run away from rehab, Zoe showed up at my doorstep. It was late, around 11 p.m., and I was getting ready for bed when I heard insistent knocking. I opened the door to find Zoe looking worse than I'd ever seen her, dirty, thin, with dark circles under her bloodshot eyes. She was clearly high, swaying on her feet and slurring her words. She begged me for money, saying she just needed enough for a bus ticket to go stay with a friend in another state and get clean. I knew it was all lies. I'd heard this story too many times before. I told her to leave and that I'd call the cops if she didn't. Zoe's demeanor changed instantly. She started screaming and crying, calling me a terrible sister and saying I never loved her. She accused me of always thinking I was better than her, of being happy to see her fail. It was awful, but I stayed firm. I repeated that she needed to leave, my hand hovering over my phone, ready to call 911. Eventually, she left, but not before kicking over the potted plant by my front door, scattering dirt all over my porch. As she stumbled away, I could hear her continuing to yell obscenities at me. I closed the door, leaned against it, and broke down in tears. It was the hardest thing I'd ever had to do. The next day, my parents called. They were furious with me for turning Zoe away. They said I should have at least let her stay the night and tried to talk some sense into her. But I know from experience that nothing gets through to her when she's high. I tried to explain this to them, but they weren't listening. They accused me of not caring about my sister, of being cold-hearted. This led to a huge argument. I finally let out all the frustration and resentment I'd been holding in for years. I told them how their constant enabling of Zoe had made things worse, how their refusal to set boundaries had allowed her behavior to escalate to this point. I reminded them of all the times they'd asked me to help Zoe, all the money and time I'd spent trying to bail her out of her messes. The conversation ended with my mom in tears and my dad angrily hanging up on me. We haven't spoken since, aside from a few terse text messages. It hurts, but I'm sticking to my decision to keep Zoe out of my life, at least until she truly commits to getting clean. It's been hard. There are moments when I second-guess myself, when I wonder if I'm being too harsh. But then I remember Grandma Rose's face when she realized her wedding ring was gone, the hurt and confusion in her eyes. I think about all the times Zoe has promised to change, only to fall back into her old patterns. I remind myself that sometimes love means setting hard boundaries, even when it hurts. For now, I'm focusing on my own life. Mark has been incredibly supportive through all of this, reminding me that I'm not responsible for Zoe's choices. We're talking about starting a family of our own soon, and I'm determined to create a stable, loving home without the chaos that's defined so much of my family life. I don't know what the future holds for Zoe or for my relationship with my parents. But I know I'm doing what's best for my own mental health and well-being. It's not easy, and sometimes I feel guilty, but I'm standing firm in my decision. Update 2. It's been about 3 months since my last update, and unfortunately, things have only gotten worse. Zoe's addiction has spiraled out of control, and she's been in and out of jail for petty crimes. Each time, our parents would bail her out, hoping this would be the time she'd hit rock bottom and decide to change. But it never was. Last month, things reached a new low. I got a call from my dad, his voice shaking with a mix of anger and despair. Zoe had broken into our parents' house while they were at work. She'd ransacked the place looking for valuables and cash. Thankfully, Grandma Rose wasn't home at the time, she was at a doctor's appointment with my mom. The scene my parents came home to was devastating. Drawers pulled out and emptied, furniture overturned, Grandma's china cabinet smashed. Zoe had taken anything of value she could find, jewelry, electronics, even the jar of spare change my dad kept in his office. But the worst part was that she'd stolen Grandma Rose's remaining jewelry, including a locket with a picture of our late grandfather. The police caught Zoe a few days later, trying to pawn some of our mom's jewelry at a local shop. The owner recognized the pieces from a description my parents had given when they filed the police report. Zoe is now facing serious charges for burglary and theft. My parents are heartbroken but have finally realized they can't keep enabling her behavior. They've decided to press charges and let the legal system run its course. It's been incredibly hard on them, especially my mom. She cries all the time and keeps asking where she went wrong as a parent. I've tried to assure her that this isn't her fault, that Zoe made her own choices, but I'm not sure she believes me. I've been trying to support my parents through this, but it's challenging. Our relationship is still strained from our argument after I turned Zoe away. There's a part of me that wants to say I told you so, but I know that wouldn't help anything. Instead, I've been helping them beef up their home security and spending more time with Grandma Rose to keep her spirits up. Grandma Rose has been taking this all very hard. She doesn't fully understand what's happening due to her declining mental state, but she knows something is wrong. She keeps asking where Zoe is and why she doesn't visit anymore. It breaks my heart to see her confusion and sadness. Zoe's currently in jail awaiting trial. My parents visited her once, but they said she was belligerent and unrepentant. She blamed them for her problems and demanded they bail her out. When they refused, she accused them of never loving her and said she hoped they'd die before she got out. They haven't been back to see her since. I still haven't had any contact with Zoe and don't plan to. Some family members think I'm being cold-hearted, but I just can't bring myself to forgive her for what she's done to our family, especially Grandma Rose. The trust is completely broken, and I don't see how it can ever be repaired. This whole situation has been a nightmare, but I'm trying to stay strong for my parents and grandmother. It's not easy, but I know I'm doing the right thing by maintaining my boundaries. I've started seeing a therapist to help me process everything, and it's been really helpful. Mark and I are moving forward with our plans to start a family. We're in the early stages of trying to conceive, and it feels good to be focusing on building something positive. I'm determined that our children will grow up in a stable, loving environment, free from the chaos that's defined so much of my own family life. As for Zoe, I hope she gets the help she needs in jail. But I'm not holding my breath for a miraculous turnaround. I've learned the hard way that change has to come from within, and Zoe doesn't seem ready or willing to do that work yet. For now, all I can do is focus on healing myself and supporting the family members who haven't betrayed our trust. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on this whole ordeal. Zoe's trial happened last month. She was found guilty of burglary, theft, and drug possession. The judge sentenced her to 18 months in prison with mandatory drug counseling. My parents attended the trial, but I chose not to go. They said Zoe looked terrible, thin, sickly, with dark circles under her eyes. Apparently, she broke down crying when the sentence was read, begging the judge for leniency. But given her history of theft and drug use, the judge wasn't swayed. Since the sentencing, I've done a lot of thinking about my relationship with Zoe and my role in the family. I still believe I made the right choice in cutting her off, but I can't help feeling a deep sadness about how things turned out. This isn't the life I imagined for my little sister when we were kids, dreaming about our futures. Grandma Rose's health has been declining rapidly since all this happened. The stress of the situation seems to have accelerated her dementia. It breaks my heart to see her confused and scared, often not recognizing family members. I try to visit her as much as I can, but it's hard seeing her like this. Sometimes she asks about Zoe, and we have to gently remind her what happened. Other times, she forgets Zoe exists entirely. I'm not sure which is worse. My parents are in therapy now, trying to work through their feelings of guilt and grief. They've apologized to me for not listening to my concerns about Zoe earlier. We're slowly rebuilding our relationship, but there's still tension there. I think they understand now why I had to set firm boundaries, but I can tell they still wish things could have turned out differently. As for me, I'm focusing on my own family and mental health. Mark and I are expecting our first child. I'm about 3 months pregnant. It's bittersweet, knowing that my child won't have an aunt in their life, at least not for the foreseeable future. But I'm determined to create a stable, drama-free home for our baby. I still think about Zoe sometimes and wonder if she'll ever truly change. Part of me hopes that this time in prison will be the wake-up call she needs. But I've hoped that so many times before, only to be disappointed. For now, I need to prioritize my own life and the family members who haven't betrayed our trust. This whole experience has taught me a lot about setting boundaries and the limits of family loyalty. It hasn't been easy, but I know I've grown stronger through it all. I've learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to step away and let someone face the consequences of their actions. As I prepare for motherhood, I find myself reflecting on the kind of parent I want to be. I want to learn from my parents' mistakes without judging them too harshly. They did their best with Zoe, but I can see now how their desire to help sometimes turned into enabling. I'm determined to find a balance between support and accountability with my own children. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm excited about the future with my growing family, but I can't help feeling a twinge of sadness when I think about Zoe missing it all. Maybe someday, if she truly commits to changing her life, we can rebuild our relationship. But I'm not counting on it. Some bridges, once burned, can't be easily rebuilt. In the end, I have to believe that I've done the right thing for myself and my family. It's not the happy ending I would have chosen, but it's the reality I have to live with. All I can do now is move forward, cherish the family I have, and hope that somewhere down the line, Zoe finds her way to a better path.